My name is Clara. I am 34 years old. For as long as I can remember, I thought life was about routines in my own life, watching moments pass without truly being part of them. I woke up, I worked, I returned home, I slept. And somewhere in the repetition, I lost sight of myself. I thought I was happy because I had stability, a loving partner, a home that was orderly and calm. But happiness isn't a state of habit. It's a spark you feel in your chest, a sense of being awake, of being seen, truly seen. I've been married to Ethan for 9 years. He is dependable, gentle, and unconditionally kind. People trust him without question, and I did too. Our life together was predictable, structured, and safe. We shared the quiet companionship of two people who know each other intimately, yet rarely speak the words that matter most. Mornings began at the same hour, workdays merged into one another, and evenings were filled with a calm that bordered on emptiness. I loved him, or at least I thought I did, because love can quietly slip into habit, and before you realize it, devotion becomes routine. One evening, scrolling aimlessly through social media, I came across an event flyer. Evening movement class for singles and couples. Discover joy, dance, live. Something about it lingered in my mind. Perhaps it was the word discover, or perhaps it was the quiet ache I'd been feeling for months, a longing for something I couldn't name. I told Ethan I wanted to go. He encouraged me without hesitation, trusting me, believing in my independence. He didn't offer to join. He didn't ask why. And so, on a Friday night, I went alone. The studio was dimly lit, filled with faces that were unfamiliar, with music that hummed softly through the air. I felt awkward, like an intruder in someone else's world. And then I met Noah. He moved with confidence, grace, and a lightness that made it seem as though the room itself had shifted. When he smiled at me and offered his hand, he didn't just invite me to dance. He invited me to be present, to exist fully in the moment. For the first time in years, I felt alive in my own skin. The first few nights were purely about movement, about laughter, about rediscovering a part of myself I had forgotten existed. The spins, the rhythm, the release, it was intoxicating in a way that was almost frightening. But gradually, the boundaries I had set for myself began to blur. What started as a weekly escape became an emotional lifeline. Conversations with Noah extended beyond the studio. Texts during the week, casual coffees, moments stolen between classes. He reminded me of parts of myself I had left dormant. He told me I had a light that shouldn't be dimmed by routine. And I believed him, or perhaps I wanted to believe him. One night, long after the studio had emptied, the music played softly and the lights dimmed to a warm glow. Noah moved closer. My pulse quickened, and in that moment, the past, the vows, the life waiting at home, all of it seemed distant. The attention, the feeling of being noticed, it called to something deep inside me, something I had ignored for too long. And for one terrifying moment, I didn't want to return to it. But clarity arrived in the form of guilt, of memory, of love I still felt for Ethan. Happiness that comes at the cost of deception is fragile, fleeting, and ultimately hollow. I stepped back. My hands shook. I realized that betrayal begins long before physical acts. It starts in thought, in longing, in silence. That night I erased Noah's number and never returned to the studio. Returning home, I found Ethan asleep on the couch, peaceful, trusting, oblivious to the turmoil I had just experienced. Seeing him there, I understood the depth of what I had almost risked. Love is not about excitement, about novelty, or about validation from someone else. True love is about choosing every single day to remain, to grow, and nurture what exists. In the months that followed, Ethan and I began to change, not drastically, not abruptly, but deliberately. We traveled to places we had never been, explored cities and forests, talked for hours about dreams we had never voiced. We laughed more, argued less destructively, and learned the art of being fully present with one another. I discovered that the emptiness I had felt couldn't be filled by a new face or a fleeting adventure. It had to be faced, acknowledged, and worked through. Transformation is rarely instantaneous. It is slow, quiet, and sometimes painful. 2 years have passed since that night. Our life is still calm, still predictable in many ways, but it carries a depth it never did before. I understand now that attention is not a measure of value, and excitement is not a substitute for love. The woman I was, who sought validation in fleeting connections, has grown into someone willing to confront discomfort, to sit with emotions that are messy, to stay even when it is difficult. Sometimes I catch myself remembering that Friday night, not with longing for Noah, but with a recognition of the courage it took to admit that I was unhappy, that I needed more from life and from myself. And I realized that courage doesn't always mean taking risks outside of your commitments. Sometimes it means returning to what you have and embracing it fully. I see Ethan looking at me sometimes, not with suspicion, but with understanding, as if he knows the journey I have traveled internally. Forgiveness is not earned. It is given when someone sees your flaws, your cracks, your struggles, and chooses to stay. Our love is not perfect. We burn breakfasts, we forget anniversaries, we argue, but it is intentional. And that intention, I have learned, carries more weight than any thrill, any fleeting escape ever could. If I could speak to my past self, I would say this: you are not lost. You are not incomplete. You are simply waiting to see yourself clearly, to understand that life isn't about chasing the unknown, but about recognizing what has always been waiting for you: love, commitment, and the courage to be present. Trying something new doesn't always mean leaving what you have. It can mean returning to it, fully, with eyes wide open. And in that choice lies the quiet power of transformation.